ladies and gentlemen. I shall be presenting before you a case study of my hometown Lucknow to explore the interconnections between Muslim anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism in South Asia. It is surprising that South Asia hasn't attracted the attention of scholars who have devoted themselves to their study of anti-Semitism, in spite of the fact that South Asia is home to 33% of the world's Muslim population. This is the region I am talking of. Southeast Asia is a term that is more frequently used than South Asia. By South Asia, I mean the countries that are members of the organization called SAARC, South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. So the member countries are Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and Maldives. 22% of the world's population is Muslim, and 33.3% of the Muslims live in South Asia. What makes South Asia a very important region for the study of Muslim anti-Semitism is also the fact that it is home to some of the largest Islamic movements in the world, such as Tablighi Jamaat, the largest Muslim revivalist movement in the world, Jamaat-e-Islami, a prototype of political Islam in South Asia, Darul Uloom Deoband, the alleged source of ideological inspiration to the Taliban, and Darul Uloom Nadwatul Ulama of Lucknow, whose curriculum is followed by seminaries in very large numbers across the world, not just in India, but also in other parts of the world, like Africa, the UK, and also America. Should I direct it to the screen? May I use this?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much. My intention is to not only point out the importance of South Asia, but also to draw your attention to the factors that shape the perceptions of the perceptions that the Muslims in South Asia have of Jews, Israel, and Zionism. South Asian Muslims have a diaspora larger in number and geographical spread than that of Muslims from any other region of the world. The migration of South Asian Muslims to all corners of the world, their attitudes can influence the attitudes in communities and can be highly influential in the wider diaspora Muslim communities and indeed beyond. How influential it can be is displayed by the fact that it was Muslims from South Asia who were the first to get in touch with African American Muslims and inspire them to organize on the lines of religion rather than common language or ethnicity, as had been the case with Arabs in America until then. Muslims, India's total population is 1.2 billion and Muslims are 17.05% of the world's Muslim this 1.2 billion is 17.05% of the world's Muslim population. 172 million Indian Muslims are the world's third largest Muslim population. Some of the most deadly attacks on Jews have taken place in South Asia in recent years. The general perception is that anti-Semitism is absolutely unknown in India. It is a fact that Jews have never been troubled in South Asia. And in fact, India and China are the only two countries in the world where Jews never faced any persecution. And these are also the only two countries where Jews were neither in a predominantly Muslim society nor in a predominantly Christian society. So what emerged as the basis of peaceful coexistence of Jews with their non-Jewish neighbors was the non-proselytizing nature of the religions followed in these parts of the world. So neither the Chinese nor the Hindus ever felt threatened by the presence of Jews in their midst, which was not the case with Christians and Muslims living in India. Yet the story of Jews in China is very different to the story of Jews in India. The Chinese Jews ceased to exist long ago as a result of complete assimilation, whereas the Jews in India not only succeeded in retaining their separate identity, but also thrived. But that does not mean that anti-Semitism has been absolutely unknown in India. Anti-Semitism has always been there. It's just that it never manifested itself before the creation of the modern state of Israel. And as soon as the state of Israel came into existence, the South Asian Muslims took no time in attacking the Jews. And the very first attack in South Asia on Jews took place in Pakistan. It is a paradox for as Pakistanis had drawn inspiration for their movement for the creation of a separate state from Zionism, a movement that they vehemently opposed. And as soon as they had a state of their own, they took no time in throwing out the Jews from Pakistan. The Muslim attacks on Jews find a detailed account in this novel written by Meera Mahadevan, which is the first ever novel published by a Jewish writer in India's national language, Hindi. Then in 2012, a group of first-year students from the Indus Valley School of Art and Architecture in Karachi staged a play on the now extinct Jewish community of Karachi. In 1967, there was an attack on the Rangoon synagogue. Then in 2002, Daniel Pearl was beheaded by Islamist terrorists. In 2008, there was a series of attacks in Bombay, which is now called Mumbai, and it is said that the main target was Beth Chabad in Bombay, and the other attacks were done only to amplify the effect. In 2010, there was a bomb explosion at German bakery in Pune, which is very closely located to the synagogue there. There are two synagogues in Pune, and it is very closely located to the Lal Devil synagogue, a Baghdadi Jewish synagogue in Pune. So it is said that the target was also the synagogue. Then the Kashmiri separatists warned against Israeli tourists visiting the Kashmir Valley in 1994, and there were also a number of Israeli tourists that were abducted. And then this happened in 1991, I'm sorry, let me correct myself. And soon after that, India established diplomatic relations with Israel. This is a picture of the orphan of Rabbi Holzberg and Rivka Holzberg, and he can be seen in the lap of their Muslim chef, Zakir Hussain, who was instrumental in saving the child along with his Christian nanny. There was also an attack on an Israeli diplomat's wife in Delhi, and it was found that the Iranians were involved in perpetrating this attack. The car was exploded by a bomb. These are the factors that fuel Muslim antagonism towards Jews and shape their perceptions of Jews, Israel, and Zionism. The images that they see of the Arab-Israeli conflict and what they read about the Arab-Israeli conflict, overly literal interpretations of the Quranic polemics against Jews, yellow journalism of the Muslim press, and English fiction, characters like Shylock and Fagin. And since Muslims are 14.5% of India's population, which is the third largest Muslim population in the world, they enjoy great political clout. They can be very influential, and they have been influential when it comes to India's policy towards Israel. And more than anything else, it was this concern for Muslim political support that kept India from establishing diplomatic ties with Israel for the first 40 years of Israel's existence, in spite of the fact that India never had any conflict with Israel. And on the other hand, it continued to have diplomatic relations with the two countries it fought wars with, China and Pakistan. These are the images that shape their perceptions of Jews, Israel, and Zionists. And when I say the interconnections between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism, what I mean by that is that the Muslims in general in South Asia do not make any distinction between Zionists, Israelis, and Jews. These are terms that are used interchangeably by them. Professor Kumar Swamy is widely acknowledged as an expert of Indo-Israeli relations, and he says that any discussion on Islamic Islamic influence on India's policy towards the Middle East becomes anathema and is often dismissed as an anti-Muslim conspiracy of the Hindu right wing. That's okay. Numerous writings on the subject have marginalized or ignored the Islamic dimension. Indian intellectuals often even refuse to acknowledge this Muslim angle. It was partly due to the pressure from the Muslim constituency that Nehru waited for more than 2 years to recognize Israel, but deferred the establishment of diplomatic relations with it. Indian Foreign Minister Jaswant Singh kindly told an Israeli audience in July 2000 that domestic concerns over India's Muslim population played a significant role in the prolonged absence of diplomatic relations. So, opposition from South Asian Muslims was also a factor when the British made it compulsory for Jews seeking asylum in India to first provide proof of employment in the country before they could be allowed entry. The only position of assistant professor in Hebrew in India at the Jawaharlal Nehru University in New Delhi remained vacant even after a number of years of its being founded, because it was reserved for the visually challenged. While Islamic studies and Arabic and Persian are available at almost all major Indian universities, Hebrew and Jewish studies are absolutely non-existent. Overly literal interpretations of the polemics in the Quran and the Hadiths. Yellow journalism of the Muslim press. Jewish conspiracy theories are very common. These are the characters that shape their perceptions of Jews because of the small numbers of Jews. Most of the South Asians never ever come into any direct contact with them, although Jews have had a continuous presence in India for at least 1,000 years. We have documentary evidence of that. And if we go by their own traditions, they have been present in South Asia for possibly 2 millennia. Why Lucknow? Why did I choose Lucknow for case study? It's not only because it is my hometown, but also because it is a major center of Muslim scholarship in the world. It has a population of 2.8 million people. 26.36% of its population is Muslim. Traditionally, its rulers have been Shia Muslims. Before it was the state of Awadh, whose capital Lucknow used to be, was annexed by the British to their empire. It is also capital of India's most populous state, Uttar Pradesh. It is home to two very prominent institutions of Islamic learning, Nadwatul Ulama and Firangi Mahal, and is also home to successive generations of eminent Shia scholars who trace their genealogies to Iranians. It is a major center of emerges as a major center of Muslim scholarship in South Asia. It has been a major cultural center where the Indo-Persian Islamic culture reached its zenith in the 18th and the 19th century. The curriculum followed by most of the Islamic seminaries in South Asia is the one that was designed by Firangi Mahal, a very prominent Islamic institution in Lucknow. As far as Darul Uloom Nadwatul Ulama is concerned, which was established in the year 1898, it educates 4,000 students, and there are 111 madaris in India affiliated to it, and also in Nepal. And there are also a number of madaris in Africa and in the UK, and also in America, wherever there is a strong South Asian Muslim presence, whose seminaries follow the curriculum prescribed by Nadwatul Ulama. It's an institution that produced some of the most prominent Islamic theologians. It has a center that publishes books in Islamic studies, and these are some quotes from her publications which have been brought out by Nadwatul Ulama. He was the rector of Nadwatul Ulama. He passed away in the year 2009 and was also the founding chairman of the trustees of the Oxford Center for Islamic Studies. And these are some of his anti-Semitic quotes. The Jews were destined always to live in subjugation of other nations and never to be exposed to oppression, chastisement, extradition, hardships, political serfdom. They were notorious all over the world for excessive pride of blood and greed, and so on. And he says that Zionism is now looking forward to the day when it shall become the greatest power on earth, as promised in the Talmud and the protocols of the learned elders of Zion, and when all the heads of the nation states of the world shall deem it an honor to serve Pax Judaica. So there is a series of anti-Semitic quotes from him. His works are full of anti-Semitic poison. Another publication of Nadwatul Ulama is Western Media and its Impact on Society. The person whose picture is there is Nazir Mazargar, who translated it into English. He says that it is the Israeli agency Mossad that has been killing Muslim scientists across the world. He says that George W. Bush has admitted that he was influenced by Jews when he attacked Muslim countries. Towards the end of the 19th century, the Zionists contrived a global organization. This was the League of Nations, and they control the world, they control the media, they dominate America and all its press. Freemasonry is a Jewish organization and is a Zionist conspiracy against Muslims. And then the current rector of Nadwatul Ulama invites Jews to embrace Islam so that peace prevails in the world. Firangi Mahal. Firangi Mahal, the institution, the other institution, very prominent institution, he is a scion of that family and is the Imam of the Lucknow Eidgah. He asks the Indian government to sever ties with Israel. And then there are a number of protest marches that have been led by him against Israel. He calls for a boycott of these brands which he perceives as Israeli owned. His elder brother, is the director of the Islamic Center in Florida. Urfi Wajahat is a member of the Tablighi Jamaat, a Sunni Muslim proselytizing and revivalist movement with 12 to 15 million adherents, mostly South Asians, spread over 150 countries. And he says that one never hears anything positive about Jews. Then Shia, and then The Shia Muslims in Lucknow have initiated a movement to liberate a building from the alleged clutches of Jews. It's a building that earlier housed an Imambara, but now houses a Freemason temple. And since Freemasons are perceived as Jews, so it is a movement to liberate this historic Shia monument from the clutches of Jews. This is Maulana Kalb Jawad, who has been leading this movement, and he says that you should read the Jewish Talmud. It is very dangerous, for it calls, because it states that only Jews have the right to live. They're given a choice between saving a non-Jewish human life and a life of the dog. The Jew should save the dog. This is the kind of religious instruction given to Jews in the book. Now you can understand yourself. So, he says that Israel is the source of world terrorism. This is the Freemasonic temple for which he has been agitating. This is the building. Zakir Naik does not belong to Lucknow, but is a very popular Islamic televangelist. And he's a Sunni Muslim, and this is what he says about Jews. I organized a Holocaust films retrospective in the year 2009, during which 46 films were screened, which ran for 14 days, and those 46 films were seen by 4,000 people. While this Holocaust films retrospective was going on, the two most popular Urdu daily newspapers carried front-page stories denying the Holocaust. The heading of this article is Holocaust, the biggest hoax of the 20th century. This appeared in the newspaper ARG. This is ARG's editor, and he says that as a Muslim, I don't have a good opinion of Jews. It's a historical fact that Israel is actually Palestine. Jews believe they are the chosen people, and everybody else should be subservient to them. It is for this reason that they do not proselytize and take converts. So even the non-proselytizing nature of Judaism is attacked by these anti-Semites. And then Qutbullah, who was the author of another article denying the Holocaust, says that the Jews as a nation have a long history of defying God's commandments and betraying the prophets. Considering this long record of theirs of betrayal, no European nation was ready to tolerate them in their midst. Hence, they targeted the weakest in the Arab world, Palestine, and partitioned it to establish a state for them, Israel. They defiled the sanctity of Masjid al-Aqsa by going inside with their shoes on. Young Israelis indulge in physical intimacy there. They have falsified the sacred texts. Okay, so this was an article that I published on Lucknow's Jewish Connection, but unfortunately, the then featured editor of that magazine illustrated my article with this anti-Semitic caricature, and also changed the very heading of my title, which was simply "Jews in Lucknow," and she added moneylender and the watchmaker, which only strengthens a stereotype of Jews. And then there are some other cohorts from other members of the Muslim elite in Lucknow that I interviewed. Could I have just one more minute?
Just to conclude,
yes.
we really need to get to question answers.
27 kilometers from the city of Lucknow is the small township of Malihabad, which is a Pashtun settlement. And there is a tradition among them that they have descended from the lost tribes of Israel. But the Pathans there have strongly resisted their academic attempts to study this tradition because they do not want to be seen as having anything to do with Jews or Israel. There have been efforts to positively change Lucknowite Muslim attitudes towards Jews, Israel, and Zionism. There's a Holocaust exhibition that I organized, poster exhibition, lectures involving Muslim scholars condemning Holocaust denial, an evening of Jewish cantorial music in the memory of Daniel Pearl on his birth anniversary. When I did not get permission from my university to organize this concert by an Israeli musician, I just invited him to my residence and had a gathering and had this music evening. I streamed Daniel, A Mighty Heart, which is a film on Daniel Pearl. And this is the feedback I received from a young man. The event was inaugurated by the mayor of Lucknow. This is a picture of the Holocaust Films retrospective. This is a press coverage those efforts received.
Lots of press.
And some of the ideas that can be implemented for bringing about a positive change in Muslim attitudes towards Jews, Israel, and Zionism. Thank you.